So I'm here with retired police officer Charlie Rose, whose new book, Why Cops Kill and How to Stop Them, reveals his personal story as a police officer many years ago in the Greenwood area of Tulsa, Oklahoma, formerly known as Blackwater. How are you doing today, Mr. Rose?
Doing fine, Ryan.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And we were talking yesterday, and I was really interested about like your origin story. Your father was a bootlegger. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, now that was something else, being a journeyman bootlegger, growing up in a chalk joint because we made home brew and we sold White Lightning corn whiskey, which my daddy burnt sugar and poured it in it and fooled the customers thinking they were drinking bourbon. And it was pretty unique experience. And just so happens that when I was 63 years old, I opened a nightclub that I ran for 10 years. So I ended up where I started. But as a son of a bootlegger, we interfaced. My daddy interfaced with police officers, black, and that was a system whereby when they were going to raid his business, they would call. He would receive a call prior to this happening, and after his call, he would tell us kids, to me and my two sisters, all right, let's put up the whiskey, the police are coming. And when they arrived, they would only find what had been left out, which did not constitute a violation of the law. And some of these guys I worked with later on when I was adult, but that issue just never came up. And the guys were very friendly and very, very cordial. So I
Wow.
didn't have a negative, attitude towards police.
And so, like, I guess, like, eventually, you joined the Air Force, and after, like, leaving the Air Force, you became a police officer.
Yes, yeah, I served 4 years in the Air Force as a cryptographic operator, and went Maine, Spain, Hong Kong to Paris. Had a bunch of fun, and the most thrilling thing about that was it gave me an education. I went to university on the GI Bill.
Yeah, that's a great resource. I've been able to utilize the GI Bill myself. I was in the Coast Guard for 3 years active duty, and the GI Bill is like amazing. Like a great benefit for veterans. When they come in and like be able to finish their education. Um, what made you want to become a police officer specifically?
I didn't want to become a police officer. I mean, that was never in my sights. I wanted to be a weatherman. I'm fascinated by Oklahoma weather. But that wasn't going to happen after the Air Force told me they needed teletype operators and crypto operators. But I became a police officer because a friend of my father, who worked for the police department at the police garage and was also involved in politics, because at that time the police department was run by a police commissioner who was elected. And because he was predominantly in politics in the black neighborhood, he said, Charlie, if you want to I can get you a job on as a police officer if you can pass the test. Well, it was the only job that I had in sight, so I took the test and became a cop.
Now, I guess you were a police officer for about
I spent 8 years as a cop.
8 years.
I left I just recently graduated with my police science degree, and nothing was seeming to be improving, and I was just tired of the BS. And so I left and went to work for the Atomic Energy Commission as an equal opportunity investigator.
And what was the specific inspiration behind writing the book?
Because I've always, because all my life and all the jobs I've had primarily has been dealing with people. And as a police officer, I really like the job. I like the job. The people seem to like me. I know that was not 100%, but the majority of the people seem to like me, and I got along very well. And so I've always had an interest in police work. It's the old saying that once a cop, always a cop. You get used to eyeballing things as you drive down the road. And so looking at all of the violence and killing that were occurring, and I knew that in my 8 years and rested over or 8 times 2, something like over 1,000 people during that 8 year period. Uh, no one was ever injured, and it's not that I wasn't involved in fisticuffs with some people. It's just that no one suffered any injury, and I knew that looking at those killings, applying the means test to those killings, the mean test being was the officer's life or anyone else's life involved being threatened, and I couldn't see that anywhere in those killings. And I just say, hey, this is bullshit. Somebody's got to talk about what the problem is here.
Yeah, and I don't hear your perspective a lot. Even from former police officers, a lot of times people place the blame on criminals, but there's never like any accountability necessarily for the way that police officers interact with citizens. And one of the things that you've talked about is like the lack of respect that is shown to people like when they do interact with the police.
That's true. Modern day police officers treat the, citizens as enemies, as suspects, as criminals. And in my day, we didn't do that. We just treated everybody as human beings. And I know that if you do that, the people will reciprocate in kind, and the job you will feel good in the job, and you'll be a better person. But if you come into the job with a lot of bullshit, a lot of prejudice, a lot of hatred, you'll be a bigger bullshitter, a bigger hater.